No, hello everyone and welcome to another edition of the MrWarrenHayes Show. I, of course, am Mr. Warren Hayes, and it is time once again. It's that moment of the week where you are going to listen to me talk about pro wrestling, and there's nothing you can do about it except pressing stop and listening to something else, but you're not going to do that. Not yet. Wait until I start talking about things that really, grind your gears. Then you'll have the incentive to do it. But in the meantime, give it a shot. We got a big show tonight here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes or on your favorite podcast application. We got a good one here. I record this live, of course, on Tuesday night. So today is June 11, 2024. And so we're going to talk about things that have been happening over the past week or so and reviewing some things. But, if you're listening to this on YouTube, first and foremost, I'd like you to like the video. Please do. And subscribe if you are new here or if you're not subscribed. These things help out a great deal and I sincerely appreciate them. Plus, if you're listening to this on your favorite audio platform, podcast platform specifically, 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts, 5-star rating on Spotify, or any kind of love that you can show on whatever your favorite application is. I would appreciate that tremendously as well. I just want to be listened to. I just want to be heard. That's all. You can also join the Mr. Warren Hayes Show Discord. The link is in the description if you want to jump in there. And you can also become a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel on YouTube. There's some little perks and stuff like that. And it's a nice little way to show some support for the show as well. Just hit the join button and you're there, friend. There you go. Just as simple as that. Simple is not the setup that I have tonight. No, it's actually pretty simple. That terrible segue. What I wanted to say is that we have a packed show tonight. There is a lot of stuff that we're going to be talking about. I'm going to be reviewing WWE NXT Battleground 2024. I'm going to be reviewing New Japan Dominion in Osaka Joe Hall. We're going to talk about the G1 because the format of the G1 has been announced as well as some of the dates, the beginning, the end, so on and so forth. All sorts of little news items. We're talking about wrestler contracts again this week. There's a lot of really interesting things happening. So it's a good show. I'm glad you're here. Thank you very much for joining me. I'd love to hear from you. Leave some love in the comments. Find me on Blue Sky as well at Mr. Warren Hayes if you want to talk shop. I'm here for it. Let's get to it. Let's jump right in. Thank you for being here. We're going to kick off tonight's podcast edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show with a little news coming from the Janel Grant lawsuit side of things. Of course, I'm doing my best to continue to get back into the coverage thing regarding it. I think I'm up to date at this point. And there's a little update that happened couple of days ago. Nothing tremendous, but of note. We want to keep things on record here. This comes from John Laurinaitis' side of things, where he has filed a statement of material facts regarding Janel Grant's lawsuit against himself, WWE, and Vince McMahon, of course. Now, you'll recall that Janel Grant has paused her lawsuit against all these people in response to a request from the U.S. Attorney's Office pending a non-public investigation on the matter. We talked about this last week at length. Now, a couple of days ago, on June 8th, Laurinaitis' legal team filed a legal document with 3 stated facts in a statement of material facts in support of the motion to send Grant's lawsuit to private arbitration. So here are the 3 statements in this statement of material facts. Number 1, at all times material to the allegations set forth in the complaint, I, as in John Laurinaitis, was an employee of World Wrestling Entertainment, Inc. Number 2, as a full-time employee of WWE, it is my understanding that I was listed as a released party from any and all lawsuits or causes of action by plaintiff Grant. Number 3, pursuant to the terms of the confidential settlement agreement, general release, and covenant not to sue, DKT 32, I don't know exactly what that is. It is my understanding that the sole and exclusive legal method to resolve any disputes related to the confidential settlement agreement would be in binding arbitration under the Federal Arbitration Act, unquote. Now, so those were the three statements that were found in this statement of material facts. You will also remember that Laurinaitis had filed a motion to support going to private arbitration, which is where this is all. This is what is in relation to. You'll remember Vince did it first, and then Laurinaitis decided to back it up, and then sometime after that followed WWE. You will also remember, however, that John Laurinaitis claimed through lawyers that he was also a victim of Vince McMahon in regards to the allegations made by Grant. You'll remember this? Before he started pallying back up with his old boss? Remember this in a statement that he put out in February, earlier this year, February 1st, quote, this is what the statement said, quote, 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 like the plaintiff, in this case, Janel Grant is who he's referring to, Mr. Laurinaitis is a victim in this case, not a predator. The truth will come out, unquote. That's right. Lest we forget that old John Yace perceived himself to be just as much as a victim in this situation by the mean old Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Anyway, so in regards to this particular statement, anyway, it's still, I am not sure what this technically is, like, because I'm not a lawyer. This is things that were filed into the, these are things that were filed into the suit, into the dossier. So there's unquestionably a purpose for this, right? There's unquestionably a true to form purpose for this to exist. What, is it to strengthen the Laurinaitis' position here to help guide everything towards our arbitration? Probably. It's probably just a very basic legal thing to do in order to strengthen your case as the judge looks over the stuff and decides whether or not the case goes to arbitration or it goes to court. Now, the thing that I find curious is that he's filing this when the lawsuit is on pause, and while there is a much more important and potentially dramatic case being built by the feds that may just overshadow just any civil suit that might be going on, anything else, or this arbitration stuff might all go out the window if this is taken to criminal court, for instance, right? Again, I'm assuming that this is legal procedure, like this is just something you have to do. But it just comes across as weird. Maybe it is procedure. Look, if WWE does something similar, then I'm like, oh, okay, this is all just procedure. But the fact that this has all been paused and he's reacting, he's adding material facts to a case that has been paused seems strange. I'm like, John, this should be the least of your worries right now, because the feds have their hands in this. You could be in a lot more trouble. But again, I'm not a legal expert. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. But this is the latest update. We just want to put it out there. It's on the record. We will, of course, continue to cover this story as it continues to unfold. Hey, Ricochet. We were talking about him in the chat right now. Ricochet, his contract apparently with WWE is up. What a past couple of days. This story just snowballed. I think it was reported right a couple of weeks ago that Ricochet was one of multiple WWE wrestlers whose contracts were coming up, right? And I was sitting here telling y'all, what if, a lot of these are just people they know they're going to sign, and they being WWE, and they know that they're going to re-sign them. So they're not going to they're making a bit of a stink out of it because they want to give the impression that there's this big, free market there's this big market for free agents, and then they're going to start gobbling up these people. But these are all people that are going to go back, right? And I'm pretty sure Ricochet was in that group, and I was like, this guy, this fucking guy, where you're like every week, you're like, this guy's never gonna, he's never gonna leave. He's a lifer. He's there. He's stuck in WWE land for the rest of his solitary existence, and So I thought that this was all like a big ploy. Turns out I might still be right, but maybe in this case I wasn't right. I'm a big enough man to admit when I'm wrong, that I'm a little off base. There's stuff like this, where you. But when it comes to Ricochet, this weekend on June 8th, PW Insider reported that Ricochet has given notice that he intends to leave WWE when his current contract expires this summer. He is expected to be written out of WWE storylines very soon in advance of the contract expiration. So that's all nice and good. Hey, and by the way, nice to see you, King of the North. How are you, Evan? Welcome to the chat, buddy. We're talking about bozos right now. We're talking about PW Insider. And then Dave Meltzer, off of the heels of this report, did his own little digging and on June 9, came back saying, according to those close to the situation, everything is up in the air. So Dave basically came around and was like, well, according to my sources, nothing is done. There's no guarantee he's leaving. He's still on the menu, boys and girls. But then Fightful Select, the same day, came out to back up PW Insider's report that Ricochet was indeed hitting the bricks, and even quoting that there were some plans to write him off television. And then yesterday, the 10th, PW Insider, because I'm recording this on the 11th, right? I recorded this on Tuesdays, in case you're wondering. It's like, it's a Wednesday today. No, come on now. And then yesterday, Monday, the 10th, PW Insider reported that Ricochet's appearance on Raw would ostensibly be his last contracted day with the company. So as it stands right now, on the 11th of June 2024, Ricochet, Prince Puma, FKA, what was the other name he had? Helios? Wasn't that his other name? He's a free agent. Wasn't it Helios? Yeah. Or Speedin' Black Bullet. Yeah. Well, in Rev, he wrestled at the very least in Rev Pro as Speedin' Black Bullet. Trevor D. Mann is a free agent. He's out there. He's he's ready to get gobbled up by a big promotion. You know, it's a shame. It's a damn shame that his contract just ended after MLW's Battle Riot. Because, man, what a missed opportunity. What a whiff. It could have ended up being on the facing Jimmy Wang and Mystico and Matt Riddle and Satoshi Kojima. Not gonna lie, I think it would have been pretty funny, Satoshi Kojima and Ricochet. Okay, I memes aside here, goofing aside, or kimchi, exactly. Maybe, have we checked that Ricochet is not kimchi? Have we checked? Like, can anyone confirm? I'm just saying. Anyway, all joking aside at this point, he's for all intents and purposes a free agent. Now, I cannot but not stand by what I have been saying about him for years at this point, because this is not the first contract time is up for Ricochet and he chose to resign. This is not the first time, and I think that conventional wisdom with how he's conducted himself and behaved and whatnot, I think it was common. It was common sense. There we go. Jesus, I can't remember common sense anymore. But it was common sense to assume that Ricochet was going to stick around WWE, right? His girlfriend works there. He's always seemed just content to sit around and get paid for sitting around, essentially making jokes about being in catering. And, then Paul decides to create a belt for him to defend on X, formerly Twitter, But I'm going to tell you, I'm a little surprised. Now, is it a good surprise, Warren, or a bad surprise? I'd say it's a good surprise. I am interested, very, very, very interested to see what Trevor D-Man does next. This is a guy who is still fairly young, right? He's like in his mid 30s. He's 35. Like prime age in the year 2024 to be a professional wrestler, right? And this is a guy who's, let's be frank, his bump card hasn't been punched all that much. It hasn't been filled up yet, if you know what I'm talking about. With the style that he was wrestling before going to WWE, maybe at this point you'd be like, okay, yeah, he's probably really, he's probably got quite a bit of wear and tear, which I don't think is the case right now. When he did wrestle, it was fairly tame. He'd do the high spots, but, fairly tame overall. And, but then again, he would not, he's got he's got so little wear and tear on his body because he hasn't been wrestling that he's practically healthy. He's practically fresh out of the box, with all this experience behind him on top of it, and wiser, smarter than he was back when he was in his early 20s, doing stuff with Will Ospreay. Look, I think I'm remiss to say this because I feel like not that long ago I was saying AEW has to stop signing people, but you bring in Ricochet, right? Like you bring him in and you test the waters and you let him go. And here's the thing. And I know a lot of public opinion, especially amongst us smarks, has sort of turned against Ricochet for the career choices that he's made. Now, he's done whatever career choices he's done at this point. He spent all this time in the Fed. Look, and whatever it is, it's there. But we go back and we think about, even when he started in black and yellow NXT, he was phenomenal. And he has always been a prime pro wrestler. This is a guy who's always got it, who always had the tools to be a top guy. And there's one guy who stood in his way all these years from being a top guy, and that's Vince McMahon. Because Vince McMahon probably saw him as too short and other visible disadvantages that Vince is not fond of. Let's put it that way. And historically, anyway. And so he was like, no, never mind this guy. He's a curtain jerker. He's an opening act. And, that's what it is. Keep him off TV, making him an intercontinental champion, but he never defends the belt. That kind of stuff. It doesn't matter. I would be genuinely excited for a Ricochet redemption run, if you want to call it that. I would be really into Ricochet deciding that he can stretch his legs and just like go and kick ass. Just go out there and do what he does best after being handcuffed for so long, right? So honestly, if I'm they gave him the Intercontinental. The chat is talking about the IC title. They gave him the Intercontinental title, and it wasn't even defended on pay-per-view. They wouldn't even put him on the shows. This was a whole thing. He was the IC champion, and the belt was kept off of. Kept off the big pay-per-views. Look, they didn't like him. They look. There's one thing that's clear in regards to how WWE felt about Ricochet, is that they didn't see anything in him. And I would even go as far as to say that the Speed title was, I think there's only one guy who really liked him, and that's Paul Levesque. I'm convinced Paul Levesque, because he brought him in, ultimately, into NXT. And when Paul got in control, he was like, yeah, no, don't worry, Trev. Don't worry, Trev. We've got plans for you. We got plans. And it turns out he doesn't have any plans. And it turns out that Paul is like, I'm going to create a title just for you, Trev. And it's going to be called the Speed title. And you're going to be defending in 3-minute matches. Oh, you mean like typical matches on Raw? Shut up, Trev. Shut up, Trev. You're being a nasty old coot, Trev. Don't be like that, Trev. You sound like a Twitter user, Trev. Well, but my point, look, again, despite the goofing, my point still stands. I'm convinced that the Speed title was convinced to sway him to stay. And next thing you know, he's dropping the title. Can we spoil this? Is this still a spoiler? Is the new winner of the Speed title still a spoiler? I don't even know anymore. I don't pay that much attention. To hell with it. It's not even that. Now he drops the title to Andrade, who I am sure is thrilled to be wearing the social media title. Like, I'm sure Andrade is like, oh, real Latino man is the social media champion. Anyway, so basically, look, I'm Tony Khan. I'm circling back to my point where originally I was saying I've been talking recently about how if I'm Tony Khan, I'm remiss to bringing new guys in, but I think you make a little room for Ricochet because the possibilities are great. The possibilities are legitimately great. What if Ricochet backfires? Haha, thank you, Kristen. And hey, it's Pretty Kyle of the Apron Bump podcast. You should check out the Apron Bump podcast. Apron Bump podcast. How you doing, Kyle? It's nice to see you, man. So there you go. He's the longest running speed champion in history. You're right. I should respect that. Hopefully, top guy Andrade will be able to dethrone him. But you bring him into AEW, and just out of AEW, look again. It's another situation where people are like, oh, Will Ospreay will be able to let's run Will Ospreay. And again, I'm like, sure, yes. I mean, it would be nice to see Will Ospreay and Ricochet matured later in their careers, just having another go. Don't get me wrong, but I'm thinking Ricochet versus Pac, Ricochet versus Rey Fenix, Ricochet versus look, give me Ricochet versus Danielson. Send Ricochet to Arena Mexico. Why wouldn't Ricochet go back to his old stomping grounds in New Japan, right? Set him up for the Super Juniors tournament next year. That kind of stuff. That's yes, the Will thing is tremendous. Everyone can have great matches with Will Ospreay. That's part of it. But man, I'm like, there are so many possibilities, so much stuff that we have not seen. Roderick Strong and Ricochet, like in AEW, would rule. Ricochet versus Kenny. Jesus Christ, like matches we've never seen, or that we've seen, but like everyone was like 14 years old. I'm exaggerating. You know what? There's a lot of and the flexibility of being in AEW also allows Ricochet to go off and do other stuff, right? To just go and hang out elsewhere and go to other promotions and do other things. So, like maybe Trev has been looking at this landscape and how everything has changed. And he's like, you know what? I've been stagnating here for so long. It's time for something new. And you know what? Good for him if that's what he decided. Good for him if he decides to do that. Because this is what this environment should be all about. More places for wrestlers to work, to hone their craft, but also grow their craft and grow their personality, grow their career, be what they wanted to be. We're no longer dependent on one man / one promotion anymore. You can go and try other stuff. This is what AEW has provided as an opportunity for these guys. Why wouldn't he do that? Why wouldn't he be able to do this? Swerve versus Ricochet is another good one, right? I'm legitimately excited for this because I want to see, again, what a Ricochet can do unfettered. Now, this might sound oddly familiar to when I was talking about Mustafa Ali and I was sitting around rubbing my hands together. Finally, let's fucking go. When Mustafa Ali so far has turned out to be the 3.5 star special guy. He's fine, he's good, but he's not the mind-blowing revelation that maybe a lot of people were expecting, that I was expecting at the very least. I thought a released Ricochet, the guy who'd post videos of him training and sparring and doing all these incredible moves. I was like, Jesus, can you imagine the matches he's gonna have? So far, I've been like, all right, Hey, Leo Rush is still out there. Ricochet and Leo Rush. Yet tell me that doesn't entice you on some level. I don't care where it happens. There's still something there. There, a lot of these signings demand context, or signings or releases, as to whether or not AEW should pick them up. They require context. And in the context of Ricochet, 35 years old, like the prime age for a pro wrestler in 2024, his bump card has not even been filled up. It's not even close to being filled up. He's basically coming in healthy. A guy who's a name, who's a star, that people recognize, and who has a slew of matches that people would love to see. A slew of, I shudder to use the term dream match, but you know what I mean. I'm Tony Khan. I'm trying him out. At the very least, I'm kicking the tires on him, right? Right? You bring him in, you see how it goes. At the very least. And, who knows? Like, maybe he has this WWE superstar attitude and he gets backstage and, he thinks he's a former WWE guy. He's going to come run the roost, and maybe it'll all blow up in his face. Maybe, he'll hit the ring for a couple of matches and be like, man, this guy kind of stinks. But at the very least, I think that second scenario, I think, is completely improbable, because he doesn't stink. He's just been handcuffed. Now, on the opposite side of things, we have Chad Gable here. Chad Gable, who he was a contract that was coming up, and he is likely staying with WWE. That's what's being reported. That the contract hasn't been finalized, but they're close, and people are happy. PW Insider reports that Chad Gable is, quote, extremely close or has come to terms with WWE, unquote. They noted that it's not 100% confirmed, but that people in the company are staying, but people in the company expect him to stay in WWE. Fightful Select is reporting, in the meantime, that there have been, before we get to that though, because Fightful Select basically did confirm what PW Insider was reporting here. It was basically saying, yeah, we're expecting him to stay. To no big surprise, and I don't know. If anything, I think Chad Gable leaving would have been a bigger surprise than Ricochet to me, because Gable he's a system guy. I legitimately could not see Ricochet hitting the. I legitimately could not see Ricochet hitting Chad Gable hitting the indies, doing the grind, showing up at, Black Label Bro, and then Beyond, and going over to Defy with the GCW date in between. And I can't see him do. I think he's happy where he is. I think his little pushy push that he's in right now is no mistake. I think he's taken the title off of Sami Zayn, and he's going to stick around and he's going to be a nice little intercontinental champion until it's time to move on to bigger things. And that's it. It's fine. It is what it is. But this is a guy that I really didn't see leaving. Which added to my theory that a lot of these leaks were maybe kayfabe leaks, where it's like, no, we're leaking that these people their contracts are coming up, but we're secure in our beliefs that we are re-signing them. But we're kayfabing a free agent market, right? So it's fine. Like Chad Gable staying with WWE, it's fine. And I don't think it's all that big news. But the thing is that Fightful Select was also reporting that there have been other WWE performers who saw their deals come up recently and have claimed to other companies that they've been on a per appearance basis. which I think that's bigger news than Chad Gable sticking around or not. This was included in the Chad Gable report. But if you ask me, news coming out that some people in WWE are working on a per appearance deal is big. This is something that WWE has not done in decades. There was a time it was, basically common practice to do that with in pro wrestling. But, once contracts started getting settled in and whatnot, it's like, all right, this is where we're at. This is what we're doing. We're going to not keep everyone under contract, and some people we're just going to use on a date per date basis. That's a huge change. Now, I think of course, the report doesn't mention anyone specifically, but I think it's safe to assume that the top people, and you know who they're, like Cody, Roman, Seth, that crop, those people are absolutely absolutely locked down with the contract. As with, Bailey, Io Shirai, Io Sky, Rhea Ripley, all of these names, The Miz, R-Truth. But your lower card folks, you start to wonder, are they on a per appearance basis or are they in a contract? And if they're in a contract right now, who are they? What's going to happen when their deals come up? Are they going to resign, or is WWE going to try and keep them under the pretense of having of being on a per date basis? And being on a per date basis, does that mean that they can work elsewhere? Because the wording of the report is very interesting when they say that these wrestlers have claimed to other companies that they are on a per appearance basis. So again, does that mean that maybe, I'm throwing a name out there, that someone like an Akira Tozawa, does that mean that he could just go do something else? Does that mean that an Angel Garza could go show up on any other show? Could he show up on AEW? Or does WWE still have weird ass terms that say as you are on a per appearance basis, you cannot appear on other shows, which would be wild and anti-competitive and would not be good for the wrestler. That would be terrible for the wrestler. Let's be completely transparent. Excuse me. So, I don't know. It's very interesting. Again, this is something we might want to keep into. Angel Garza showing up at the Crash. Pretty much, it's like, what is Mia Yim doing in the Impact Zone? So, it's like, who are these people, and will this become will they have another tiered system? AEW already has that, right? AEW already has this type of deal with the number of appearances. Maybe this is a response to that. Look, we've hammered this home so many times, but it's worth saying again. AEW showing up in the market has mixed things around and has created new opportunities for pro wrestlers. New ways of approaching contracts and making money. Now, this would be a huge departure. This would be a huge departure from what WWE typically does, but maybe they're just responding to the market. Or maybe they're just going all TKO on us too, which is possible. Which is also very possible. since we are on the topic of WWE, let's do this and talk about WWE NXT Battleground 2024. That was a show that happened this weekend, June 9, 2024, from the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. Boy, oh boy, did they hype up this UFC Apex, this glorified gym that they have, or whatever it is, multifunction room. They showed like, they did, a time lapse of them setting up the room, right? The venue. And it looks worse than the warehouse in Orlando. Like, I'll tell you what, they weren't touting their numbers. They weren't touting their attendance numbers on this one. They weren't. The Triple Paul did not hit the ring to tell us that this was the highest grossing NXT event of all time or whatever the fuck. It was not a good venue and it was not a good audience. That crowd did not care. Now, did they have reason to care? Oh, well, hey, we're gonna talk about that, aren't we? I'm gonna tell you, and if anything, this is a redundant point, but I find it odd. Look, the spoiler alert here. If you just want to, if you're watching this like on YouTube on demand, or if you're listening to this on your podcast audio and you just want to skip ahead, the spoiler alert for this show is that this was a bad show. Okay. And I don't understand why it was such a bad show, where I thought Stand and Deliver, right, which was the last one, the WrestleMania show, I thought that was pretty good. I thought it was a good little show. It was clearly the best NXT PLE in a while, and I thought things made sense. There were some good matches on it. I had a good, I enjoyed myself. I got a flip side here. I got something completely different. I got sold a bill of goods here, and I laugh when I see this show, and then I see Shawn Michaels, with his chef's hat, posting, and then on Twitter, and then tweeting out, we're cooking now, or whatever the fuck. And he's got his chef's hat and his apron. And I'm like, well, yeah, you're cooking with Jack. It's cooking with Shawn. You think you're putting something nice together. You think you're showing how clever you are in the kitchen or as a booker, while in fact, it just falls flat. Instead of getting a filet mignon, we're getting, Aunt Myrna's party salad. If you know, you know. But I don't understand how people like this show. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand how people like this show. I really don't. And this was a facsimile of a pro wrestling show. This is like if the Body Snatchers took over a bunch of wrestlers and were like, oh, this is how we're going to make a pro wrestling. Not even Body Snatchers, because the Body Snatchers would have figured it all out. The Body Snatchers, they get all your memories and skills and whatnot. Homunculi. How about that? How's that for? I believe if this was a bunch of homunculi who just like straight out of the vats, and they're coming around and they look, go do a pro wrestling show. This is what it looks like. This is what it would come across as. It's a facsimile. It's a show that pretends to be a wrestling show, and it's annoying. And people on there are most of the people on there aren't very good. And people try to convince me that what I'm watching is good. If it was only the people commentating whose job it is to put over the stuff that's going on in the ring, no matter how shit it is, people online, articles, folks that this is pretty good. This show did have a bright spot. Don't get me wrong, but for the majority of it, it was from mid to bad. NXT Battleground is not a good show. And, well-known Twitter poster Garrett Kidney, contributor to Voices of Wrestling, host of You Gotta Be Kidding Me podcast, which goes over TNA, in one of my haunts said that this is a show that's made for TikTok. And it's made for this generation. It's a show that is made for TikTok. You see attractive people, who look good on TV, pulling off moves that you can clip into little 10-second things and just post it on Twitter, and everyone loses their mind. They put it on TikTok and everyone loses their mind. Like. Then you get the engagement, and then you get people to react with fire emojis or how, or that's how it sounds, right? When people go, how, and then question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, like a dozen question marks. That's what it sounds like. How? Or we cooking now? When in fact, if you look at the entirety of the match, it's clunky, it's vapid, there's no flow, there's no soul to it, just a bunch of green people doing shit. That's what it is. It's a contrived, goofy environment. And it's funny because I was watching this with Kristen, and Kristen can attest to this. At some point, they're like going back in time. Between matches, they run on Peacock one of these. They run commercial during the commercials. If you don't have the commercials, you see the WWE stuff, and they're running scenes from Brooklyn, NXT Brooklyn, between Kevin Steen and Kevin Owens and Finn Balor, who came out as the Demon, right, for the NXT Championship. I'm sure you remember that one. And I'm looking at that and like, how odd is it to be reminiscing about the black and gold era when it is absolutely the best era of NXT, when it's observably, quantifiably better than anything that's going on here. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, they shouldn't be doing this because I am actively missing that era of NXT. But NXT at that time filled a very interesting role, one that it can't fill today because AEW is there. But before AEW, NXT was the work rate show. It was the show where the indie stars showed up, where it was booking for the sickos. It's what Tony Khan purports to do. But we were doing it in WWE, and that's what it was. It was another place for these guys to work with the hope of going to main roster. NXT was never put on the same equal footing ever because the goal was to be called up. You're not being called up if you're already up. You're still a full level beneath. But that's what Black and Gold was for back in the day. It was for wrestling fans who needed a place to get these super shows that were, and if we're talking specifically about the takeovers, which were repeatedly awesome, that were just on a streak of awesome shows every single time. That's what it was for. And it was perfect for that landscape. But, and again, these are, listening to people and in my haunts and whatnot, I had a very interesting point, and I forget who brought it up, but current NXT is, as opposed to what it was back then, now serves as a place to cut away younger viewers from going to AEW. Because you're putting on attractive TV-ready people, people who look good on TV, and you're trying to stay culturally relevant to the younger demographic. Otherwise, why would you pull out Sexy Red to come show up and do stuff, right? But here's the thing, and this is the thing that might ultimately bite NXT in the ass eventually, is they're so cool and so trendy right now that they are eventually bound to get out of style. That's just how it goes. not building a product to stand the test of time. It's more a question of, instant gratification. What can you do now? You're answering to the TikTok crowd, to the generation that, grew up with scrolling through short consumable videos. So it's fine. Generation that sees media as disposable, you watch a thing and you move on. Well, they'll just keep it up. That'll be interesting to see how far they're able to push this forward, I think it's inevitable at some point that they're just going to be irrelevant. Anyway. This show started off with your host, Sexy Red. I hope she got paid a shit ton of money for the total of 4.5 minutes she was actively on television. These host gigs on these WWE shows are such bullshit. Such bullshit. But she was there at the start to, hey, Vegas. And I'm like, oh, why? My God. Yeah. And then I thought it was pretty funny because she starts twerking during her intro. And then you legitimately see the camera sort of go down to follow her, but then whoop, go right back up. And then they pan, then they dissolve actually to a wide shot of the arena because they're like, no, we can't have this on TV. The PG show, the WWE and their PG show. Meanwhile, on Raw, Liv Morgan is mounting Dominic Mysterio live on TV on a Monday night. Y'all wanted the Attitude Era back. There you go. There you go, boys. There you go, fellas. It's back. Enjoy. Yeah, it will never come close to Bob Barker hosting Monday Night Raw. That I agree with. The opening match was the WWE NXT Women's North American Title 6-way ladder match. Kalani Jordan defeated Fallon Henley, Jada Parker, Lash Legend, Sol Ruka, and Mia Yim. Hey, Tim Traver of the Diecast Collective. Nice to see you, buddy. Welcome to the chat. As I saw all these women collect into the ring, I was sitting back and it came to me, and again, Kristen can attest to this. I was like, is Dave McLean booking this? Is this a Women of Wrestling? Is this WOW? Because you had the cowgirl, you had the surfer girl, you had the they had a whole bunch of I'm just forgetting here. And you had the urban girl, Jada Parker with the out the mud guys, you had all of this. Yeah, so many types. And I was looking at this like, wait a second. Is Dave McLean secretly booking this stuff? Anyway, I was getting my notes ready. And usually I do a lot, I have my notebook, and usually I do a lot of things from memory when I get my outline together and my main talking points. I usually do it from memory. I could not remember a single thing from this match. I could not remember a single thing from this match, except for one spot that stuck with me. The one spot that stuck with me is when all of the girls got together to gorilla press Lash Legend out of the ring onto a ladder. Good bump by Lash Legend. Give her that. But that's not why it stuck with me. It stuck with me Because all the women then were all lined up against the top rope, and they were all looking down at Lash Legend, mocking her and going, hey, you know, making fun of her. And then all of a sudden, they sort of half turn around, and then they look up and they start pointing at the belt, because it's a ladder match, right? So the belt is suspended. And they look at each other and oh man, we got to go back and wrestle. And I'm sitting there looking, why are we booking these wrestlers to all look like fucking morons? Oh, that's right. We forgot. Why are they booked like idiots? This is what I mean when I say cartoon wrestling, a facsimile of pro wrestling. They all line up and they go, hee 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 hee. Not one of them is like, well, while these morons are waving their hands at the girl that's outside of the ring, I'm going to climb up the ladder and win. Not one of them did that. They're all booked like fools. It's not a cool spot. It makes everyone look like fools. This was a bad match. And not unlike Elimination Chamber, where there's one performer in the ring, one that's getting reactions from the crowd, that is doing cool shit. In this case, at Elimination Chamber, it was Tiffany Stratton. And in this case, it was Sol Ruca. The one performer that is getting people that are waking people up, because this crowd was dead. The one performer that's waking people up, just like an Elimination Chamber with Tiffany Stratton, doesn't win the fucking match. I know people really like Kelani Jordan, good, affable, nice girl, very likable, got a nice little charm to her. Sure. But also green as hell. I mean, they're all green as hell. They were all green here. Who was the ring? Why do you think Mia Yim was in here? Shits and giggles? No, she was there to direct traffic. She was there to make sure that everyone kept their spots. I know Sol Ruca does her finisher and whatnot, and big reactions from the crowd. She's doing her, her flippy cutter, whatever she calls it. This soul crusher. I don't remember what it's called. Crowd are on their feet, but no. Oh well, this was a bad match. I gave it 2 stars. Then we had Axiom and Nathan Fraser successfully retain the NXT Tag Team titles against the OC. And this was fine, I guess. Who cares? Nothing special. It felt like a TV match. Yeah. Carl Anderson wrestling only where the lights are brightest, right? Only where the lights are brightest. At the UFC Apex. Then we had the NXT Underground match. Lola Vice defeated Shayna Baszler, in case you didn't watch. If you recall Raw Underground, this was the setup. It's supposed to be like one half. I'm not sure I completely understood the rules. I like they take the ring ropes off, and I thought it was like it was supposed to be like an old school MMA fight, like from the 90s where you could just wail and be violent, but it turned out to be more of a grappling match. but also had, and I understand that it was no DQs, no holds barred, but then they end up like going to, they end up rolling to the floor, and they're doing table spots, and I'm like, what am I watching? I enjoyed most of this match because I felt like both Vice and Baszler worked really well in the work shoot environment here, and we're told go out there and have a good go out there and have a wrestling match, but then to spice it up, we need to do stuff on the floor, otherwise people are going to fall asleep. And for me, that ruined the experience. That really, it took me out. I was like, well, okay, of course we're doing commentary table spots instead of just keeping it in the ring, and because it was actually pretty good. And I was looking at that and I was like, man, send Lola Vice to fucking Bloodsport next time. You know, it was like, there's something here. This wasn't bad. I was enjoying it, but WWE got into its own way, I guess, where they had to have extracurricular stuff happening on the floor. I guess it's just WWE has to be WWE, and but I'm not even sure what the full concept was. So maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe this was already expected. But as I got into this match and I saw the thing, and you know what, they actually did a pretty good effort to make this feel special, where they dimmed the lights. You know, the atmosphere, the lighting was different. The camera shots were different as well. They were much more grounded, I found. I don't know why we had to have a bunch of people around the ring, like in a fight. I guess it's Fight Club. That's the idea. But then why aren't people just like keeping them from using tables and I don't know. Look, it doesn't matter. I know I'm overthinking it, but honestly, look, I gave this three stars. I thought this was pretty good. It definitely wasn't the most offensive thing on the show. Obafemi defeated Joe Coffey and Wes Lee to retain the NXT North American Triple Threat title. Look, Obafemi continues looking good and being booked. He is probably the most smartly booked wrestler in WWE right now. This is the guy that they are covering for, that they are making sure that they are making sure doesn't have a match in which his weaknesses are put forth. Only his strengths are highlighted. I hope Obafemi gave Wes Lee a big handshake, a big, manly, thankful handshake after the match, because Lee made him look like $1 million, like the most fierce man in pro wrestling, right? I had people in the Discord going, oh my God, you got to Brock Lesnar this guy up. And I'm like, Jesus. Look, Brock Lesnar at this stage was a much more complete pro wrestler than Obafemi was. Brock Lesnar was, of course, a freak of nature. And, you know, I don't think it might take a while before we see someone as complete become as big a star as quickly as he was. Femi has all the tools. He's got the size. He's got the charisma. He's got the intensity. He's got so many basic things down. But he's green. And don't fool yourselves. He is not a complete product. Let this guy marinate. Let him train. Let him get better before y'all start clamoring for him to be, you know, oh, he's got to go up in the next draft and so on and so forth. And take your time with this guy. He's super young and he's got time to develop. He's got time to be on main roster. In the meantime, they're doing wonders by him. He looks good. He looks good. He's just, you know, the best parts of this match were the Obafemi feats of strength using Wes Lee, just throwing it around, doing incredible stuff with him. But it takes two to tango in this situation. And Wes Lee was told, unquestionably, you got to put this guy over. You got to make sure that he looks like $1 million. He looked like $1 million. It's tremendous. Yeah, the Gallus boys get involved because, of course, you can't just have a wrestling match anymore, anywhere, ever. But there you go. He retains in a match that I gave a 3.25 star. Don't think it was. I thought it was. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. Sean Taggart, nice to see you, pal. Welcome to the chat. Very nice to see you. Roxanne Perez successfully retained the NXT Women's title against Jordynne Grace. This unquestionably is match of the night. Right now, well, on Cage Match, 8.46 is the rating. I think it's too high. Like this was a good wrestling match. Don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't go as 8.46. We're talking. This is like a 4.25. If you're doing stars, that's way too high. It was good, but it was not that good. What can I say? Like, Jordynne Grace drove Roxanne Perez to her best match in NXT. That's just the way it goes. And it's a shame, right? That somehow we suddenly need people from not within NXT to come in to put your champions over or to work with your champions because you don't have anyone else who is even remotely over enough or has the skill to deliver a good match in these positions here. I mean, look, Jordynne Grace is a great pro wrestler. She's tremendous. So no big surprise here that she was able to guide to guide this one and get a great match, and doing stuff that you don't usually see, like in WWE, like a muscle buster. I was shocked. They wouldn't let Samoa Joe do that. The times they are a-changing, I guess. And she looked good, and she stood out. Jordynne Grace stood out here on this show because she's a vet. It's a show full of rookies, of babies, essentially. Jordynne Grace comes in here and she owns the room. She owns the place. She walks around like she doesn't go here, but she should. This was her spot. And Roxanne had, like I said, her best match since she's joined NXT. I don't even think that's up for debate. What was better than this? First of all, do you remember a Roxanne Perez match that was not even as good as this? Do you remember a Roxanne Perez match? Outside of hopping on Cage Match and saying, "Oh, Roxanne versus what's her name? Skateboard girl." Can't remember her name. But then, of course, there has to be WWE stuff. Now, Tatum Paxley comes out, and she goes for the Knockouts title. She's like, "Oh, I want this," and she makes away with it. But then, and the funniest crossover of all time, Ash by Elegance, aka Dana Brooke, just like appears to take the title away from Tatum Paxley and saying, "No, I'm fighting her for this title. You can't come in here." And commentary is going, "That is Ash by Elegance." It's like, come on. I know, look, I know wrestling is dumb like that. I know wrestling is dumb like that. But come on. And I guess this means that, look, they're clearly doing a talent exchange, right? Because didn't I see Brooks Jensen? What's his name? Is that who it, Brooks? No, it's Brooks Jensen. He's going to TNA. I'm like, wow. And then they're going to be sending what, Tatum Paxley? Like, wow, TNA getting the big stars. TNA sends over Jordan Grace, who is unarguably one of the biggest stars in TNA right now. And in return, they're getting Tatum Paxley and Brooks Jensen. Oh boy. Indeed, all the stars are here. Like, TNA got Kenny Omega. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying, while he was a world champion on top of that. Anyway, all these distractions allowed Roxy to land the Pop Rocks for the win. And I mean, there's no surprise in the conclusion. There's no way Jordan Grace was winning here. But look, Jordan Grace Jordan Grace is leaving for WWE the minute her TNA contract is up, and good for her. But she's heading to Stamford as soon as it strikes midnight on the day of her contract. Yeah. And TNA, I mean, here I am saying, oh, they're getting Brooks Jensen and Tatum Paxley. Well, TNA's sending over a wrestler that WWE fired. It's like, they're sending her back. Dana Brooke leaves Battleground. She's asked to leave. I didn't say bye to Vince. Oh, poor Dana. Oh, he's not here, Dana. But yeah, Grace is absolutely going to WWE, and again, good for her. There's no perceivable upward mobility otherwise in TNA. I don't know what TNA is getting out of this. I don't know what TNA is getting out of this. Outside of the talent benefiting, right? Like Jordan Grace solidifying her relationships in WWE. Outside of that, I don't know what TNA is getting really in return. Do we really sincerely believe that WWE fans are going to be tuning into the Impact Zone on the Thursday night to watch Brooks Jensen and Tatum Paxley and see what kind of intrigue Ash by Elegance is up to? No! The answer is no. I'll answer it for you. No! It's not even a rhetorical question. It's a fact. WWE fans will pretend that they know who these people are, and they'll be all, ooh, isn't that nice? Because you know what? Like we were talking about, they're going to see clips of it. They're going to see clips of it on formerly Twitter and on TikTok, and they're going to feel all caught up and so savant. They're going to feel so smart. No one's watching. WWE fans are not going to watch this. They're not going to watch the Marigold match show that Io Shirai is going to be on, facing Utami Hayashishita, that was announced today. They're not going to tune in. Oh, it's a great opportunity for more eyeballs on Murray. That's not happening. There is no WWE fan that is going to download Wrestle Dash Universe. They're going to download the app to stream that to their Fire Stick, to their Chromecast. Pay $10 to watch Io Shirai fight a girl they never heard of. That's not happening. Like Chat said, they want less wrestling. They want more talk. They want main events where people just talk to each other. That's what they want. I don't know what TNA's getting out of this. Everyone's pointing out, the director of talent or of media relations, I think for Anthem was there, something to that. I don't remember the exact title. He was there, and people took photos of Gail Kim. And like, oh, Gail Kim is here. Well, of course, yes, Gail Kim is going to go there because the company's going to send a handler. The company's going to send someone to handle the talent when they're somewhere else. Yes. Gail Kim hates WWE. Never forget that. It's so crazy to me that I see these arguments where people in positions that are supposed to know what they're talking about are saying, well, it's a good idea to have these NXT talent on and have these exchanges because it'll draw eyeballs to the other product. No, it won't. It is a very poor understanding. It is a very poor understanding of what the WWE fan wants. And what the WWE fan wants is WWE. Everything else is amateur hour to them. It's indies. It's independent wrestling. How many of these people have said, no, New Japan is an independent promotion? They don't know anything else than what they get every Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. And I would argue that for a lot of them, Tuesdays are skippable. Tuesdays are not required viewing. That's what they want. So this argument that, what a good idea to put Io Shirai on the card. Look, you put Io Shirai on the Marigold card. I'll argue this, that for local fans, like for Japanese fans, this is going to be an opportunity for them to see once again a beloved wrestler, a woman who was for a long time and probably still is, we just don't know anymore, but probably still is one of the best professional wrestlers on the planet, having her show up to be in a main event to wrestle another beloved wrestler in Utami Hayashishita. Do not minimize anything here. This woman was at the top of stardom when there was a resurgence of business, and it was carried on by Shuri. We're Western wrestling pilled into thinking that, if WWE shows interest, people are going to be interested, without ever even remotely considering the environment, the culture. NXT isn't even available in Japan. Talking about sending NXT wrestlers to they don't even know who they are. Wow, what a big deal to have NXT wrestler Charlie Dempsey on a no show. They don't know who he is. Anyway, I got off track. Mr. Fantastic, nice to see you. Welcome. It's always nice to see you, Mr. Fantastic. Ask the question, does this new NXT TNA deal have anything to do with Scott D'Amore getting shit canned and TNA not working with AEW anymore? I think, as far as AEW not working with TNA, no, I think this is completely separate. It's not the same issue. That I'm pretty sure of. And is this a sign about Scott D'Amore getting shit canned? No, I don't think either. I don't think. I think that maybe, look, I couldn't tell you why Scott was fired. It's still a bit of a mystery. We'll eventually know what happened, but there's a lot of speculation. It's like we were talking about last week with the TNA people who were in the office and were shit can. It's not a WWE hostile takeover. It's Anthem restructuring. And Scott D'Amore leaving could be just as simple as that. He wasn't providing returns. His salary was too big, and he's like, no, we got to let you go. That could be it. And I know he offered to buy the company and they turned it down because they still saw value in it. But whatever. It's like, I don't know. I don't think they're as closely related as we like to headcanon it. I really don't. I honestly don't. It all feels like Anthem restructuring. That's what it feels like. And then the NXT title. Trick Williams defeated Ethan Page to retain in Ethan Page's first match in WWE. These are my notes. These are a live look at my notes right here. Trick Williams versus Ethan Page. And ellipses. I got nothing. This was the definition of a mid match. Just completely, utterly mid. Bone dry, overcooked steak, mid. Nothing special about it. Nothing absolutely horrible. Nothing good. Just stuff happening. Mid. But what did you expect out of Ethan Page, who is the definition of a mid wrestler? Yeah, I know a lot of people like Ethan Page. I think he's a very charismatic guy, good mic worker, very affable. He has his, he did his vlogs for a while. People were really into that. And I get it. He's got a good personality, which is why he fits right in with WWE. But as far as a wrestler goes, mid. And he's been mid for years. He's 34. What you see is what you get, baby. This is it. After all this time. And he's put in there with a wrestler who's green as grass. Still. Trick Williams, I know. Not a finished product. Being put in there with the middiest mid man that ever midded. Did you understand? He's mid. And but then again, here's the thing. And this is also a theme on this show for weeks and weeks and weeks. WWE fans will just blindly accept whatever's happening here. They got excited, jumped out of their sheets. Their sheets? Sure, if they were lying down, but I wanted to say it was seats. But they could also be lying down, all bundled up, nice and cozy, and you're just like, you're in bed, you're watching the TV, you're relaxing, you're spread out on the. Under the blankets on your bed, and you see Ethan Page. You jump out under the sheets, which is possible. But they, why wouldn't you be spread out? And you got all the room. Let's say you have a king size bed. You have a fucking king size bed. You're spreading out. I'm sorry to say. Chad is asking, why are we spread out in the bed? It's very simple. You're in the bed, right? And it's a king size bed. What are you doing? You're staying all in your little corner. You're squeezing yourself in. You're keeping yourself all snug on one side because for whatever the fuck reason. No, you're spreading out. You're taking as much room as possible, pal. You know, maybe you've got like you've got some crossword puzzle books right there with some pens. Maybe over here you've got a snack bowl, you know, with some dill pickle flavored pretzels, right? You know, you got a drink on the, you keep the drink on the night table, right? But my point is you're occupying the space. You've got all this this real estate. Well, you're going to maximize your usage of said real estate. You know what I mean? I'm crossword book. Look, I don't know what you people do in your king-size beds. And I don't want to think about it either. But back to Ethan Page. The point here, and I did say zoinks. So the point being here is that Ethan Page people were really excited to see Ethan Page show up, but you know, it was more, a lot of it had to do with, hey, this guy's on AEW and he's with us now. Oh, another win, another W, right? And people got really excited. They were like, oh, Ethan Page is here. We'll turn him into a star. And I swear to God, I saw from a large Twitter account tweet out a picture of Ethan Page coming out at Battleground saying 10 minutes in, he's only 10 minutes in, and Ethan Page already looks like a big superstar. That's the way you handle him. He legitimately has had the same entrance for the past 10 years. There was nothing special about it. He just looks, it's the same thing. Like, WWE fans will just gobble it up and will regurgitate because they want to feel like they scored a big one here with Ethan Page. And they were acting like they scored a big one with Ethan Page. But anyone who has seen Ethan Page, who was familiar with Ethan Page, if you were even remotely watching AEW, you knew, it's Ethan Page. It's Ethan Page. It's fine. It's like Shawn Spears. It's Shawn Spears. It's fine. You can have him. No one in AEW, no AEW fan is bemoaning the loss of Ethan Page or Shawn Spears or Brian Pillman Jr. or Jade Cargill. I don't hear anyone mention these names and saying, man, I miss BPJ. Man, I miss Shawn Spears. No one says that. But WWE fans is like, yeah, and Jake Hager's coming up next. That's right. Oh, Jake Hager's back. We the people. Woo! And then they turn, and then they realize, then WWE fans look at him and, yeah, it turns out he's pretty mid. That's what they did with Brian Pillman Jr. They were all telling us. They had the articles. They had everything. They were telling everyone he's going to be the next big thing, the next big star. Turns out he's died. Who'd have known? We knew. Anyone who watched him wrestle previous to this, we knew Brian Pillman Jr. was a dud. We know Ethan Page is mid. There's not an AEW fan in the world who sat there going, oh my God, what a fucking loss. Most of us just shrugged. Good for him. Best of luck to you. But seriously, like, this is not a joke. Good for him. Good for him to have landed this gig. I think he fits in well. He's in an environment where he can be himself and he can wrestle his good old-fashioned mid style and no one's going to complain. No one's going to bitch. You know, at some point, Ethan Page is going to come up to, he's going to have his DVD with him, and he's going to bump into Shawn Michaels, and he's going to, hey, Shawn, I got something to show you. And he's going to pull out his portable DVD player, right? He's going to open that up, and he's going to open it, click, and open up the lid, and then he's going to put the DVD in, click, and then he's going to press play, track 2, and he's going to show Shawn Karate Man. And Sean is going to go, this is fucking brilliant. We're doing Karate Man. You know this is coming. You know Karate Man is making a comeback. This is why I like talking about NXT, because there's so much potential for goofs. But this main event was mid, just not good. What a terrible way to end the show. And you know what? There was so much I found. I don't have the times here. I don't have the time. Yes, I do have the times. Look, opening match was 12:23. Second match was 11:37. So like what? We're up to 24 minutes, let's say. 10 minutes for Lola Vice, a half hour. Then 32 minutes for, then 12 minutes for the NXT North American match. So that's 34, let's say 14 minutes. That means 48 and 12 minutes for the main event. So that's 16. We basically had about 60 minutes of pro wrestling bell-to-bell action on this show that started at 8 p.m. and finished at 10:30. Like, a lot of people, oh, that's a good ratio. I think it, like, I'm kind of like, this could have been a lot shorter. But there's so much nonsense between the between the matches and the commercials and the promos and everything. Not the promos, but the promotionals between the matches, the advertisements, and so on and so on. I'm like, oh my God. Why is this hour show so fucking long? This was not a good show, folks. This was not a good show. Nothing really to recommend. I think it's all, you know, if you want to see Jordynne Grace have a good match with the Kid, please go right ahead. The Kid being Roxanne Perez. Please do. Go right ahead. But holy smokes. Holy spittoon, folks. That was my NXT Battleground 2024 review. Hope it did it for you. All right, we're going to talk about some New Japan Pro Wrestling. This is where we're at now. This is what we're doing. And we are going to start by talking about the G1 Climax 34. It has been announced. It was announced this weekend at the Dominion show. We're reviewing the Dominion show immediately after, so don't forget that. But before we get to that, let's lead in with the G1 Climax. It has been announced. We'll be beginning on July 29. And boys and girls, friends, chums, non-binary pals, we are back to a 2-block G1. Block A, Block B, a field of 20, 10 people per block. Boom! I am going to take the victory lap on this. I am going to say that I influenced the right people. Me! I am the one who brought this into the world as I was sitting here during the burst of Super Juniors, and I was telling folks, man, I wish they did the return to the G1 with 2 blocks. And I'm going to reiterate the main reason, the 2 main reasons. First of all, you keep the schlubs out. You keep the goofs out of the. You keep them out of the. You keep them out of the tournament, right? Because if you have 4 blocks and you have like 7-8 people per block, you've got people in your tournament that are like, they shouldn't be here, and that dilutes the quality of the tournament. And when you only have 2 blocks, it is much easier to focus on the stories, and focus on the right stories. Focus on the people that are in the tournament. You can streamline the attention much better. I see nothing but upside. There is nothing but upside with a 2-block system here. I am excited. 20-man field. 10 people in each block. Now, this weekend, right? It's this weekend, is the New Japan, is the beginning of the New Japan Soul Tour, right? The two remaining spots, New Japan is going to announce 18 participants. It's not a game show, Warren. They're going to introduce 18 of the entrants this weekend, and the two remaining spots will have to be fought for via play-in matches during the Soul Tour. Excuse me. So I like. I'll get to all of this in a second. Let's break down the rest of the situation here. There are still going to be playoffs in the G1, but instead of just tossing the top two block winners into the finals, or something to that effect, or because last year, anyway, instead of just tossing the top two block winners into the finals, it's going to be the top three finishers that are going to advance. The second and third place finishes of each block will face off on August 15, with the top scorer receiving a bye to the semifinals. So I hope that was clear. I hope I made it clear. So essentially, again, second and third spots will have to fight to get to the semifinals, whereas the top spot of each block will have a bye to go directly into the semifinals. I kind of like that. I kind of like that idea. So the semifinals will be on August 17, and the grand finals will be on August 18. So it's a month of pro wrestling that, of course, I'm always excited about. I guess this setup makes the G1 a little less predictable, maybe. Maybe it makes it a little less. Maybe it makes it a little less predictable, I guess. I don't hate the idea. I'll tell you that. I don't hate the idea of the playoffs being structured in that fashion, and you can absolutely have like a real deal, come from behind winner. Because look, Gable always likes to book one of those in all of his tournaments. TJP was that this year in the Best of Super Juniors. So he always likes to have one come from behind champ guy who'll rise to the occasion, who'll lose their opening matches and then just go on a streak and will fight tooth and nail. So you could have that guy, just make it to the playoffs in third place, and then beat the second place guy in the playoffs, and then reach the semifinals, and then win there as well, and go to the finals, and then you do whatever you want at that point. So I don't hate it. I think it's interesting, and I think it's a better way to spice it up than say, hey, we're having 4 blocks of 7 people, where you're like, oh, it's nuts. That's just wrong. That's like, honestly, it's hard. It gets a little hard to cover, and that was one of my main gripes during my coverage last year. Is like, there's, it gets difficult to cover because you're spread so thin all over the place trying to piece things together in matches that don't matter. It's small, a more restricted field with less guys in it is a boon. It's absolutely a boon. 30-minute time limits are going to be de rigueur in the tournament this year. Like I mentioned, begins on July 20th, ends on August 18th. And And yeah, so that leads us back to this idea of having qualifiers for the last two spots, which is exciting to me because you know what this means? You know what this means? It means it becomes much more difficult to justify putting goofs into the G1 because the goofs would have to earn their place. And to be clear, I'm talking about the Yujiros, I'm talking about the Yanos, I'm talking about the Bad Luck Fales, the Chase Owens. This means that if these guys, it means that it is going to be a lot more difficult to justify, to explain to me rationally why a Yujiro Takahashi is in the base group of the G1 and not in the qualifiers. The qualifiers, if you really need to, have to include the goofballs, have to include the sacks of turnips that are always like wastes of space, and you go, oh well, there you go, it's the Yujiro match, and there's a fair chance Yano is still going to be in it because Yano's the night off. There's always a night off, and a lot of people really like him, and I used to really like Yano, the comedy bits, and then they got really old after a while, and I think it would behoove him to do something different, right? Juggernaut Bloodbath, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what the base 18 are going to be. What the base 18 are going to be, because the base, like I said, there shouldn't be any lower card, curtain jerkers in this. You all know who you watch New Japan. You know exactly who I'm talking about when I talk about these types of wrestlers. They all pop into your brain. You know whoever it is. If Tangaloa was still in the company, well, it'd be the same thing as like Tangaloa has no business being in the base 18. Neither does Yujiro, neither does Chase Owens, neither does Yano. Although you can make an argument for Yano's the only one you can make an argument for. Excuse me. No Bad Luck Fale. Hell, no Kenta. They should at the very least have to qualify. They should be in these qualifiers. But knowing Gedo, he'll probably put Shota Umino. He'll probably put, Yota Tsuji. He'll probably put Taichi. Guys where you're like, no, these are all dudes that should be in the tournament. What are we doing? So the field is going to be revealed this weekend, the field of 18 on June 16th. So we'll probably be talking about that again next week. G1 season is coming, baby. But in the meantime, look, here's who I think should be in the G1. I have 15 names of professional wrestlers contracted to New Japan Pro Wrestling that should be in this tournament. Okay? Tetsuya Naito, who will probably be world champion at this point. Zack Sabre Jr., Tomohiro Ishii, Shingo Takagi, El Fantasmo, Henare, what the hell is wrong with me? Henare, David Finlay, Evil, Sanada, Shota Umino, Yota Tsuji, Yuya Uemura, Taichi, Great Okan, Jeff Cobb. Those to me all make perfect sense. They're people who can either they're either up and comers. They're either people who are solid workers. There are people who have the background to back it up, or are current champions. I think these are kind of undeniable to me. I don't think you can. I don't think you can. I think you can bank on these, right? And Sanada, right? Sanada was out with a neck injury, but just a couple of days ago, he had an interview on NJPW1972.com and or their Medium website, on Medium, because the website's still not working. That's an embarrassment. And he said that he's cleared. So I'm convinced Sanada is going to be in the G1 for good or real, as long as he doesn't win. So those would be my base 15. The others that you could throw in here, look, Yoshihashi, I think he'll probably be in here as well. There's a very good chance. He's a reliable mid-card guy, a guy who it doesn't matter if he wins or loses, and he's solid, he's consistent. He was one of the most consistent performers in the G1 33 last year. So I think that there's a case for that. Hiroki Goto, his partner, sure. I think there's also a case of phasing him out. The G in G1 stands for Goto is done. That's been done for years. I think there's a case to phase him out. I think Ren Narita is not necessarily a lock. Maybe you add him in because you want House of Torture nonsense in the other block, and in the block that Evil isn't involved in, and that I could do without, but Gabe Kidd, strong openweight champion. Does that even matter though? Does the fact that he's a champion even? Does the fact that, because I was like, Gabe Kidd should probably be in here because he's his champion in the company, but doesn't even matter because Hiroshi Tanahashi in his 10-point plan said, the strong titles, they should be defended in North America. So does it even matter to the Japanese market that strong title is there anymore? Like, it's a legitimate question to ask. Here's a wild card: Callum Newman. We'll talk about it a bit about his match against Tetsuya Naito shortly, but in that match, commentary was putting over the fact, he started packing on some pounds, he's filling out. Is Callum Newman just gonna get bumped up to heavyweight? Is this the story we're trying to say? And he's gonna get up to heavyweight, and because they like him. They would not be putting this kid so soon in a singles match with Tetsuya Naito if they didn't like him, if they didn't see anything in him, if they didn't have the promise of something to come with him. You know what I mean? Overall, I think, they might add 2, maybe 3 more New Japan guys. But then comes the question of, always comes the very exciting question of who from outside the company is going to join us, is going to join the G1 and leave whatever considerations that they have over the summer behind. Like who's going to be the people? And Chad, I'd love to know if you have any speculation as to who might or might not be a part of it. I think my 2 top choices for people that I think are plausible, highly plausible, to be in the G1 Climax 34 that are not in New Japan are Jake Lee and Claudio Castagnoli. I think Jake Lee, look, the fact that, he's been working, he worked in New Japan, he's got this feud with Naito, and they're going to be fighting again at the next they're throwing him in there at the next All Together show is what I was trying talk about. And, you know, he cozied up to New Japan. He's been wanting this for a couple of years. He's been wanting to get into this G1 for a couple of years now, tweeting it out, and he might just get his wish this year. I would not be surprised in the least. Would I be excited? Hell no. I'm not excited at the idea of fucking Jake Lee in the G1. What are we talking about? But I'm saying he could absolutely be in there. Claudio? Well, Claudio has sort of hinted on a couple of occasions that he'd like to have a little New Japan run. He'd like to head on over to Japan and do his thing, you know, flex his muscles over here and try something new. Well, G1, baby. And quite frankly, Claudio would be terrific. I think he'd be great. Bunch of guys I'd like to see him mix it up with. I think it'd be tremendous. Let's do it. Like, frankly, I hope it happens. I really, really do hope it happens. Another guy I'd like to see? Those are my top two. But yeah, I'm thinking, keeping an open mind and who I'd like to see and who I'm like, maybe. Kazuhiko Nakajima. I mean, what has he been doing recently? He's not at the center of anything huge. He's, bring him in. Just have him do a thing for a little while, for a few weeks, and then thank you very much for your services. Have him come in and whoop some dudes. Let's get strong style, baby. Maybe him being in here is going to wake up some people. He's going to start lighting fires. Tom Lawler, I'd like to see back again. I thought Tom Lawler, was it last year he was in the G1 or was it the year before? I don't quite remember. But I do remember his performances overall. And I thought they were pretty good. And I felt like he was getting the hang of it towards the end. And we were inching closer and closer to something really good. I think with his rookie G1 out of the way, he could just come in and just beat dudes up, have a good time, put on some great wrestling, and he can take a loss here and there. You're not overly protective of Tom Lawler. It's fine. He's a guy who could finish the tournament with a losing record and no one would bat an eye, but you'd get some good matches out of it in the meantime, though. And that's all I really want out of the G1. It's like I want good matches. That's why I say if you have the sack of turnips in here, Yujiro Takahashi, you know that one match per night is going to be the shits. It's going to be terrible. You just know that's going to happen. But if you bring in guys like Lawler, who are going to work and are going to try and are going to put in effort, even if he is on the losing side of things, well, at least you're going to get a decent match out of it at the very least. And like I said, he can take the L's. It's not that big a deal. Ah, look, I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see I think the format is such a relief. I'm so happy about it. Makes my heart sing. And I'm particularly excited at the prospect of doing another daily G1 recap show, which I've been doing. Last year was the first year I did it daily. The past couple of years, this would be the fourth year I think I do it, third or fourth. I don't know. Like people, it's crazy to me that people are like, oh yes, I'm at podcast episode number 73. Oh yes, podcast episode number 112. I don't know how many of these things I've recorded. I don't know how people keep track of that stuff. And it doesn't matter. Like, it does, like, to me, it doesn't matter. Like, do you care that I've recorded maybe, I don't know, 200 episodes of the MrWarrenHayes show previous to this? Does this impress you? Maybe. It doesn't impress me. I'm like, anyone can do it. Just sit down and record twice a week for, it's not that big a deal. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't think it's that impressive in the format that we're doing. If I were writing down a script, like if I were doing, Welcome to Night Vale, which is a great podcast, one of my all-time favorites. And recording 200 episodes, of a scripted episode with some, great writing and voice acting and, and audio mixing and everything just comes together. Like a lot of work, a lot of artistic work being put into it. And 200 episodes, yeah, that's fucking impressive. This is not impressive. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Let me know in the comments. But yeah, no. So basically, I'm announcing that my G1 coverage will be back this year, will be daily once again. So every day that we have a G1, I'm popping on into the studio office, firing this stuff up. You're gonna get yourself some daily G1 recaps. You should be excited, you son of... So that's where we're at with the G1 Classic. Now we're going to review, even to be even more precise, New Japan Dominion in Osaka Joe Hall 2024, which happened on June 9th, 2024 as well. As well as Battleground is what I'm trying to say, which is already like a full topic behind. Good job, Warren. And it was, of course, in Osaka Joe Hall. It's in the title. In Osaka, Japan, 7,254 beautiful human beings in attendance for the show. I gotta say, that's not bad. It's pretty good. Good little audience here. I like this show. There's your spoiler. I thought this was a good show. Easy breezy to listen. Nothing bad. Really, like any bad, No. Just a nice breezy pro wrestling watch. And you like those sometimes. Let's get to it. Let's go in order. Tetsuya Naito defeated Callum Newman in the opener. This was maybe the worst match of the night, and it wasn't even, like I said, it wasn't even bad. It was fine. It just did what it had to do. Give a bit of a showcase to Callum Newman and let Naito steamroll him when it was time. Not exactly a showcase and not exactly an even match, but that's not what this was. This was clearly establishing that Newman is not ready to be on the level of guys like Naito. This was essentially a warm-up for Naito. But nonetheless, looked pretty good. I thought this worked well, and Newman, he attacks before the bell, lands moonsaults, neck breaker on the apron, and lands moonsault. The neck breaker on the apron was Tetsuya Naito, of course. He plays the hits, working the neck, of course. He hits a Frankensteiner. Newman hits a Spanish fly and a tiger suplex. The running Destino lands, but Newman kicks out. And Newman tries to fight back, but he eats a Destino proper. Naito wins. That's fine. Fine little match. Good little opener. Got people really excited to see Tetsuya Naito out the gate. This crowd was into it. They were into the show. So there you go. See, I gave it 2 3/4 stars. It's not great. But I mean, it's not a terrible match. Just, I don't know. You saw everything come together. You knew what was going to happen here. That was fine. Zack Sabre Jr., Robbie Eagles, and Kosei Fujita defeated the Bullet Club War Dogs, Clark Connors, and Jilla Maloney, teaming up with Noah's own LJ Cleary. Fun little trios match. Good final stretch between Zack and Cleary. Zack gets the win with the Zack driver on Cleary. No complaints. Fun little trios match. 3.25 star. Forgot to mention that Naito having this singles match, like I said last week, is absolutely setting him up for challenging Moxley later on. That was inevitable at this point. Yuya Uemura defeated, Great Khan, excuse me. Am I skipping? No, that's it. Okay, no, I'm right. Great Khan defeated, I'm confused. Great Khan defeated Yuya Uemura to become, once again, King of Pro Wrestling, winning the King of Pro Wrestling title in a Storm Catch Rules match, which was essentially a pure rules match instead of Great Khan's 61-minute time limit match. You know, like, no one wanted that. No one voted for that. Like, good job, New Japan fans. Look, it was good. It was a good little match. I mean, I don't think Uemura and Great Khan have that much chemistry with each other. I don't think like it's a good pairing. But it worked, you know, they did what they had to do. Great Khan uses his first rope break, and then Uemura shortly uses his thereafter. There's a lot of limb work, biting. Uemura dumps Great Khan over the top, which then forces Great Khan's second rope break, essentially, or disqualification, whatever you want to call it. There's an eliminator into a cross arm breaker, which Great Khan struggles to get out of. Deadbolt suplex by Uemura, but a super eliminator by Great Khan gets the job done, and is once again the King of Pro Wrestling, which means I guess we are getting back on track to having rural revival matches, right? We're gonna have eating contests are back on the menu. Guys, gals, and non-binary pals, this is where we're at right now. Hey, Conrad of Everything Pro Wrestling is in the chat. Nice to see you, Conrad. It's always nice to see you. Welcome, pal. The LIJ team of Yota Tsuji, Hiromu Takahashi, and Bushi defeated Hiroshi Tanahashi, Oleg Boltin, and Toru Yano to become the new never open-weight six-man champions. Boltin Oleg doing feats of strength in this match was absolutely the highlight. Hiroshi Tanahashi wipes out on a high fly flow and eats a gene blaster by Yota Tsuji for the win. We get some new champs. Good little match. I gave it 3 stars. Like the match before, I gave it 3 stars. I gave this match 3 stars as well. It's fine. A good little match. I got nothing else to say, really. Who cares? Like it's the never open weight 6-man titles. Who cares? Jeff Cobb defeated Tomohiro Ishii to retain the New Japan World Television title. Big suplexes and superplexes and throws and strikes and fighting spirits. Picture what you can picture in your mind what this match is going to be like, and that's exactly what we got. Ishii does a Hurricane Rana in this one as well. But a Tour of the Islands puts it away for Cup. And it went just over 10 minutes. I still think Jeff Cobb should be booked in matches. I would have waited for the Tomohiro Ishii match. I would have waited. I would have booked Jeff Cobb in sprints, like 7-minute, 8-minute matches, sprints, where Cobb is just bulldozing through opposition. I'm not saying a la Goldberg style, invincible, undefeated. No. There is some back and forth, but we're just bulldozing, a back and forth, a good back and forth, but he just tears through opposition, and he does the opposite of the Zack Sabre Jr. reign, right? Which is the other memorable reign, where Zack would most of the time go over 12 minutes and would get really, really close to time. Cobb should be the opposite. Cobb should be, no, we're not getting close to the time limit. We're careening through the opposition here, so that when he does get to Tomohiro Ishii, who presents a legitimate threat, then you get your 12-minute match and like, oh shit, we haven't seen Jeff Cobb being taken to the limit here, and blah 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 blah. I still think that's how he should have been booked. I would have saved this one. And this was a good match. I gave it 3.5 stars. And I feel like I'm on the odd man out on this one. I thought it was very good, but not as good as a lot of people thought. On Cage Match, it's over 8. I don't think this was a great match. I thought it was a very good match, but I don't think it was great. If this means that they have another one in the chamber, that's fine, because these two dudes rock, quite frankly. Let's see. Oh yeah, IWGP Tag Team Title in New Japan Strong Openweight Tag Team Title 4-way elimination tornado match. Yeah. TMDK defeated Bullet Club, Chase Owens and Kenta, the IWGP champions. Guerrillas of Destiny of El Fantasma and Hikuleo. They were the strong champions. And Bishamon to become the United champions. Undisputed champions. Whatever. Whatever. I thought this was okay. It's when the last two teams were left here, things started picking up significantly, but and TMDK do everything they can using power move after power move. And the last two teams are TMDK and Bishamon, right? The GOD were eliminated first, and then the Bullet Club guys. And TMDK landed a super tank buster for the win, which was pretty cool. I guess it feels a little fresher, but it's still the New Japan Tag Team division, right? Like, there's nothing to cry home about, especially since, look, the real story here, because outside of the match was fine. I gave it 3.25 star, whatever the hell. It's it is what it is. But the real story here is that within the match, ELP, El Fantasmo, super kicked Hikuleo, his partner, in the face. And that led to the team being eliminated, that specific move. And after the match, Hikuleo is a little sore at ELP. ELP is very apologetic. And Hikuleo sort of walks away, leaving El Fantasmo behind. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, oh, is this the write-off? Are we done with Hikuleo? Is this finito? Are we done now? Is Hikuleo finally heading over to NXT? Hit the bricks, pal. Like, are all the Tongans gone now? Is this what I'm asking? GOD, sayonara, sisters. Probably, and even in the backstage comments and the press conference thing that they do after, Hikuleo was absolutely leaning into the fact that he was disappointed and he's kind of mad and he wants to hit the bricks, right? And please do. I'm so excited at the idea of Hikuleo being gone. I've been excited for it for a long time. Now it appears this is exactly what's happening. Because look, it's even being reported. It's even being reported by both Body Slam and Fightful, bodyslam.net, and Fightful. Tamatanga Tangaloa, Hikuleo, what am I talking about, is expected to join WWE according to the reports from both outlets. While it's not confirmed that he has finished up with New Japan already, because of the angle, there is a very strong feeling that this is it. This was even, and then later on the Observer added on a daily update, quote, "We did get confirmation from the WWE side that Hikuleo was coming in after what appeared to be the farewell scene in the post-match after he had been pinned at yesterday's Dominion show in Osaka." So it all seems to be coming together. The bloodline, where they're going to keep stuffing dudes into the bloodline, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the Tongans all enjoying their time in WWE and doing things in a promotion that I don't watch on a regular basis. Legitimately, that it works out for me. It works out for you. It works out for everyone. I think it's a tremendous plan. I'm here for this. So if this is the send off, good. You couldn't have a better opportunity than for El Fantasmo to shine in the G1, since he's going to no longer have any allies. This means it'll be, GOD is going to be done. What more do you want here at this point? This all rules. Hikuleo, again, here's what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen. Hikuleo is going to show up on a Friday night SmackDown, and the WWE fans are going to lose their minds. They're going to go, "Oh my God, it is Hikuleo." And they're all going to say, "This youngster." Well, he is in his 30s, but he's going to be another young man. And they're going to be like, "Oh, what a whiff. We've collected all the brothers. The Gorillas of Destiny are in WWE now. Fine. Picking up the stale acts. They're in it for the grind, apparently." Shingo Takagi and Henare went to a double count out, or double knockout, I should say, for the never open weight title. The referee went for the 10 count. Neither could answer the call. They were both flat on their backs. This was another good, hard-hitting match between two of the strongest, most violent wrestlers in New Japan Pro Wrestling. It was a great match. It was a great match. I give it 4 1/4 stars. I really liked it. And the thing is that I think this is not even their best match together. This might even be their worst, or might tie one that I'm not quite thinking of. If you saw their 40-minute affair from, was it Destruction last year? It was that Destruction, right? Where they had the 40-minute match where they just completely trashed each other. That match was unreal. A tremendous fight. This one was great, don't get me wrong. That's the thing, is the quality of Henare and Shingo matches together is just tremendous. They just strike and slug at each other for the entire match. Both land their finishers. Neither can, muster the gumption to cover. They're spent, they're exhausted, they're tired. They're throwing bombs on each other. They can't they can't answer the 20 count, which leads to the draw or the double KO. It's great. I really like this match. I thought it was a tremendous match. Jon Moxley retained the IWGP World Heavyweight title in a lumberjack death match against Evil. I like this better than I expected to. So, just to put into context, right? Jon Moxley was there with his lumberjacks. His lumberjacks were the third generation of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Tiger Mask, Yuji Nagata, Togi Makabe, and Hiroyoshi Tenzan, with Shota Umino, of course. And on Evil's side, his lumberjacks with the rest of the House of Torture, Ren Narita, Yoshinobu Kanemaru, Yujiro Takahashi, and Dick Togo. And this is a lumberjack match, and I hate lumberjack matches. I don't think that there's nothing memorable about a lumberjack match. They're all kind of bad in their own little way. And I think it hampers a match more than anything else. I think I would have rated this match higher if it wasn't for, the nonsense going on. And yes, it's cool to have, I understand the story, the symbolism, whatever you want to call it, of the third generation, coming in and clocking House of Torture into oblivion. I understand what they're trying to do, what they're trying to say. And it even starts off with President Obari. He's in the audience. And he gets confronted by Evil, and they spray paint him in the face with the black spray paint. He gets held down by House of Torture guys, and Evil just spray paints him. President Obari is now a character. Huh? Are we going to get worked up about this? Are we going to get excited about this? Are we going to get angry that President Obari is now a character in New Japan Pro Wrestling lore? He's not just a background guy. He's a character now. Let's get up in arms, folks. Raise the pitchforks. Oh no, not again. This all starts before the bell during Mox's entrance. But Mox gets in control early for the better part of the first half. He has for the better part of the first bit of this match. There's minimal nonsense, even with the lumberjacks. So I'm like, might not need the lumberjacks all that much is what we're telling me here. House of Torture whipped the hell out of Jon Moxley on the floor, and they've got belts and everything, and they're just wailing on him. Jon Moxley's nuts. This is what we have to come to understand. He's just crazy. He's just nuts. And then later, Jon Moxley does a dive to the floor, and he starts whipping Evil. We get a table out, and the Japanese crowd starts chanting, "We want tables." That was a big smirk for me. Some classic powder to the eyes and by Dick Togo, and a home run chair shot by Evil. We're pulling out the classics here. Evil doing... He's in the ring, and he's trying to put Mox away using submissions and finishers of the third generation dudes. Of course, it's not working. Evil almost gets a 3, though, at some point. We get all the interference from all the lumberjacks. It gets the crowd into it. It doesn't do much. A lot of people get excited. The House of Torture do a shield bomb on Mox through the table, which I thought was very fun. And Mox gets the barbed wire bat, uses it, Death Rider on the bat for the victory. It was a fine match. It was well done. I thought the pace was a little clunky because of the lumberjack nonsense. But it wasn't overwhelming. But it kept the match from being great. I give it 3 3/4 stars. But it's not a great match. I can't. What do you want? The House of Torture is a turnoff for me. You know? And I can't objectively sit here and after having spent the better part of 2022 and 2023 talking about WWE PLE main events with the bloodline interference and telling you this shit sucks. And I can't sit here and tell you that this was great because that's not consistent and it would be dishonest. It would be intellectually dishonest of me to do that. Intellectually dishonest. And after the match, as expected, Tetsuya Naito comes out to challenge Moxley for the title at Forbidden Door. So Tetsuya Naito will be regaining his title at Forbidden Door in a couple of weeks. That's my call. I'm sure this will be to the glee of many New Japan fans who hate the idea of Jon Moxley, an AEW guy, being IWGP champion. Whereas I think, anyway, I don't want to get into that again. Not just yet. Maybe save it for the Forbidden Door stuff, but I don't even think it's close to being the disaster that a lot of people are making it out to be. I really don't. And finally, the main event. He finally did it. El Desperado defeated Taiji Ishimori to win the Best of Super Juniors 31 final tournament. Not just the final, the tournament. Good for him. Like, this was a long time coming, right? This was a long time coming for him. And I really liked this match. I thought this was a great main event. A lot of people wondered, well, the title main event should, maybe there's someone backstage. The main event should be the world title is what I'm trying to say. Maybe someone backstage putting this card together. We're like, no, we cannot finish this tournament, this show with the lumberjack match with all the nonsense and whatever because people are going to go home mad. Let's have El Desperado, a guy who is well over with the crowds in Japan and has a lot of fans here in North America as well. Let's have him win the tournament and have the feel-good moment at the end to send everyone happy, as opposed to, Jon Moxley and Evil doing fucking nonsense with, lumberjacks and whatnot. And I thought it worked. I thought it was a very wise booking decision, and I thought it added to the moment. And these guys wrestled like they were in a main event. Taiji Ishimori, I'll tell you, he works when he has to, and he was ready to go. And you could see it early on in the match. Does a golden triangle really early on, and he's working Desperado's arm so well. Like, just doing some great stuff with his limb work. Flipping Suicida that followed as well. Ishimori, but that's by Desperado, excuse me. Ishimori does a tremendous job on the arm, the shoulder. So when he gets that bone lock cinched in, right, then you're like, oh shit, Desperado's in trouble. And when he does, that's the point, and he does, and the crowd is immediately like backing up Desperado. Everyone's like, oh shit, he's in trouble. Like, this was really fucking well done. Despe rolls out of the bone lock and into a numero dos, and Ishimori transitions out of that and into a fucking Canadian destroyer. Just like, so I got no complaints here. He's working hard. Ishimori comes close with a low blow into a Gato clutch comes close to getting the win is what I'm trying to say. Great strike exchange to lead us into the 20-minute mark as well. Ishimori kicks out of the Pinche Loco. He does an F5 face breaker, which is like, okay, why can't we have this Ishimori every fucking time? If we had this Ishimori every time, we wouldn't have any complaints. We wouldn't be bitching about him. Reverse Bloody Sunday with the closest 2.99999 kick out by El Desperado. Of course, earlier on in the match, Ishimori had removed, padding from one of the turnbuckles. He gets thrown into it. Reverse Tiger Driver by El Desperado, which was tremendous, and a Pinche Loco for the win. It was great. It was great. It was a great main event. I loved it. I gave it 4 3/4. Just a little short from being a match of the year. But Jesus Christ, this was amazing. Just a great fight by some great guys. And the right man went over as well. I think Desperado's a great Desperado mid-card guy who elevated himself, who got himself over with the crowd, and systematically delivers on everything he does. Whether it is a straight up juniors match or whether it's him, whether he's doing death matches, he just goes and he delivers, and he's an all around great wrestler. He had a fantastic tournament on top of it all. Always at the top of the card and always delivering. Most of the best matches of the tournament of this year's Best of Super Juniors had El Desperado involved in them. It's just, he's just tremendous. I loved this match. It was a great way to cap off the tournament. A tournament which was, as you recall, talked about it last week, wasn't all that exciting from top to bottom, was a little dry, had its moments, had some very good matches, but was overall very dry. The semis were great. This was even better. Absolutely recommend. I absolutely recommend you take the time to watch this match. You should watch the show. I thought it was a good show. Overall, top to bottom, I got no complaints. I enjoyed myself. It was a nice little watch. But some really good matches in between. What more do you want? What more do you want? Show coming out with the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title after El Desperado's win. Starts talking trash, and El Desperado's like, okay, well, I'm coming for the title, and we're doing it in a steel cage. And I think they're doing it this weekend at the Soul match, at one of the Soul shows, right? I think they're blowing it off this weekend on the 16th. And if there's any real justice in the world, El Desperado is going to win. Now, the only thing that's annoying me in this situation is that it's a House of Torture match, and these days cage matches don't matter. Like in AEW and WWE, everyone gets out of the cages, everyone gets into the cages. So who gives a fuck? Like it's not even, the cage match isn't even that impressive anymore, I guess. So I'm a little worried at the potential for nonsense nonetheless, right? It's happening this weekend. Maybe I'll come back next week and say, hey, you know what? The cage match ruled. I did not have a chance to watch the Despe Invitational, which happened on June 10. I did not have an opportunity to watch it. I'll try to catch up with it. Apparently, it was just a wild affair that even saw Starlight Kid challenge El Desperado to a match. I'm like, it's okay. All right. It's never going to happen. It's not going to happen. But still. That was Dominion in Osaka-jo Hall. Good show. I strongly suggest the main event, that you strongly recommend the main event, and I suggest you watch the whole show. It's a good time. It's a nice show. It's a good show. It's fun. Should we preview Hassle at the Castle real quick? Yeah, let's just take a minute or two to do this. Clash at the Castle this year. The Oval Hydro in Glasgow, Scotland, June 15. Presented by World Wrestling Entertainment. Damian Priest versus Drew McIntyre for the consolation prize. The Judgment Day are barred from ringside because Drew McIntyre won a match on Raw to get that stipulation in there. First of all, honestly, okay, we'll talk about the attendance and the pricing. I've already discussed the pricing. I actually made a short, quick thoughts, short for me anyway, quick thoughts video on this concept of being overpriced, being priced out of the market for this show. Let's see what the attendance looks like, and we'll talk about this next week. But if I'm paying the exorbitant amount of prices that WWE is charging the people of Glasgow to attend this show live, because the tickets are fucking expensive, don't get me wrong. If they are charging this much money for what is a card which is essentially a house show card, except maybe for one match, maybe two, and there's only 5 matches on the card, I'd be a little annoyed. I'm going to be sitting there having paid like what, 250 pounds for my ticket, and I'm going to spend a vast majority of the time watching the Titantron broadcast tourism videos of the area I already live in. You know? I'm going to be like, I'm not, you know. Like, this is not a spectacular card. This is a card that's, look, this is a card that is featuring Scottish wrestlers, right? And that's why it might feel special, but it is otherwise a very mid card. I'm not trying to be funny here. And there's a rematch there's a rematch of a match that we saw just a month ago. Like this, there's nothing here that screams great overall card. This is a very mid show. Very, very mid show. That's why Drew McIntyre will objectively be in the main event, right? Another main event loss for Drew, right? Isn't this what's going to happen? It has to be this, right? Are they already taking the belt off of Damian Priest? Did the great vote of confidence within Damian Priest? The great vote of confidence already done? Like what, 2 months later? Which also goes to show how important the World Heavyweight Championship is in their eyes if they're ready to jump it around like that too. Where it's just like, oh. How many defenses has Damian Priest had? How many did, let me go check this out here. There we go. He's had one defense against Jey Uso in France, which was not a good match. Like conventional wisdom would say, strap up Drew. It doesn't matter. It's the secondary title. Who cares? Let the fans go home happy. But what was this Damian Priest thing? Again, this cash-in business once again leads to nothing. This Money in the Bank bullshit once again will lead to nothing if Damian Priest loses. He does his little cash-in, has a defense, and then no faith from the company. No faith. Anyway, doesn't matter. Look, conventional wisdom would say we're going with Drew McIntyre, right? But then what does that say about Damian Priest? What does that say about the title? Look at a bunch of stuff, right? Maybe they just want this World Heavyweight Championship to end up around CM Punk's waist, right? Maybe CM Punk will be doomed to always chase and covet the secondary titles. Anyway. Bayley versus Piper Niven for the WWE Women's Championship. I like Piper Niven. I think I've always liked Viper. I've always liked her. I think she's criminally underused. And Bayley, look, God bless Bayley. I talked about her on the last preview for Backlash, I think. She's not who she used to be. She's just not. Her mobility's down. Her knees are shot. Like, she'll do her best. I don't know. I'm not expecting much out of this match. But again, what is there to get excited about? Bayley's retaining. Piper Niven's in this spot because she's Scottish. And that's fine too. Don't get me wrong. But again, like this is a B show. Sami Zayn is going to be defending the Intercontinental Championship against Chad Gable. This is one of the two matches where I'm going, maybe there's something here. There could be something interesting here. There's the whole story with Chad Gable. I'm not reiterating all that. You know how it goes. Chad Gable just re-signed. I think he's getting the title. I think he's winning the title. I think he's beating Sammy for it. And he's going to have, I don't know, Maxine Dupree get involved. Who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. But I think Chad Gable is going to get his little reward, his little carrot at the end of the stick for re-signing. Cody Rhodes versus AJ Styles for the undisputed WWE Championship in an I Quit match. Cody Rhodes versus AJ Styles was a truly great match. It was a legitimate great match over in France about a month ago. I hope they do that. I hope they do it again. Because that was an entertaining match. That was a really fun WWE match that I sunk my teeth into. And like I pointed out, one of the things that's good about this bloodline-less environment is that you don't sit around in the main event waiting for the interference to happen. Now it's like these guys can just go out there and have a great match. And that's what they did at Backlash. They had a match what I thought was objectively better than the Night 2 main event of WrestleMania. I thought. And they'll probably have another great one here. I don't know, I quit means that it could go sideways too, but you kind of hope not. And then Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill will be defending the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship against two other teams, Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark, and Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, the Spooky Girls, who are never on TV, but we're digging them out for the Scottish show. But tell me I'm wrong. Why is Piper Niven on the show when she is never featured on any PLE? Yeah. Same thing with Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. Same thing. Drew. Well, Drew's is a different case, but he's, nonetheless, and that match has all the trappings to be a disaster once again. And once again, Bianca Belair is going to be in there looking like a goof, surrounded by goofs, instead of wrestling the top tier women in this division. They are failing Bianca Belair. Last year, that's all we could talk about. The year before as well. Then she loses the belt and now she's carrying Jade, literally. Carrying Jade Cargill. Of course I'm going to review this next week. What are we talking about? I don't have high hopes, high expectations for this card. I think it's going to be, it feels like a Paul Levesque special where you're going to have two matches that are going to be very good and sandwiched between that is just going to be a whole bunch of what the hell is going on here. That's essentially what I think it is going to be. I hope everyone enjoys Hassle at the Castle. Clash at the Castle. There you go. I think we did good this week. I'm going to wrap up the podcast on that lovely note. Thank you, everyone, for listening, for joining me, for being here, for being a part of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show community. Here during the live chats, as I record live on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, or in the Mr. Warren Hayes Show Discord, which is, the central hub of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show community. You should join. Link is in the description, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast application. It's right there. And if you're listening on YouTube, hey, a like, a subscription before you leave, that would be tremendous. Also, a little love over on the podcast side. 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and 5-star ratings on Spotify are tremendous as well, and I'll help grow the podcast. I will be back Thursday for another edition of the AEW Dynamite review, but otherwise, look, whenever you decide to pop back, I will be here. Thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.